Good evening and welcome to NTD UK News. I'm Stuart Lees and here are today's top stories. Fans and football authorities condemn the decision to form a European Super League. Prime Minister Boris Johnson cancels his trip to India in light of the COVID situation in the country. And Russia retaliates after the Czech Republic expelled its diplomats in their biggest dispute to date. Football authorities, fans and political leaders are condemning the move by 12 of Europe's top football clubs to launch a breakaway Super League on Sunday. It's set to rival UEFA's established Champions League competition. NTD's Neil Woodrow brings us the details.
Manchester United, Real Madrid, Juventus and Chelsea are among the 12 founding clubs of the Football Super League. But UEFA are threatening to ban them from playing in any other competition at domestic, European or world level and have vowed to fight the move. The clubs involved in a statement say the global pandemic has accelerated the instability in the existing European football economic model, and there is a need to provide higher quality matches and additional financial resources for the overall football pyramid. Soccer authorities, fan organisations and politicians across Europe have heavily criticised the breakaway. European soccer's governing body UEFA holding a crisis meeting on Monday. In a statement it says it would consider all measures available to us at all levels, both judicial and sporting, in order to prevent this happening, and that it will ban participating clubs from domestic, European and international competition. In response, the Super League club says they would take legal steps in unnamed courts to protect their interests as they set up the league. Prime Minister Boris Johnson is not a fan of the new league.
We're going to look at everything that we can do with the football authorities to make sure that this doesn't go ahead in the way that it's currently being proposed. I don't think that it is good news for fans. I don't think it's good news for football in this country.
The chief executive of Football Supporters Europe says they were expecting this, but couldn't predict the scope of it.
I think it is more despicable. It is more of a greedy power grab than we ever expected. And they claim that they do it in the interest of football. They claim that they do it in the interest of everyone. They even claim that this is a response to the challenges of the pandemic. What they only really do is endanger the economic model of football and put every single club in Europe in danger.
Soccer's world governing body FIFA had warned in January that it would not recognise a breakaway league and that it would ban players who took part in it from featuring in the World Cup. However, on Sunday it seemed to have lowered its tone to mere disapproval of a closed European breakaway league and with no mention of sanctions. For the moment, fans are not in favour.
When you take a league and you make it a bit of a closed shop, it's just completely unfair. It defeats the point of competitive football. It's like the idea that you make the Premier League a kind of American-style league where there's no relegation, there's no promotion. It's just ridiculous. I don't think European clubs who have history in Europe should be able to rest on that history going forwards.
There is obviously a big financial issue surrounding this.
Businesses have involved themselves in football much more frequently, and we've seen the increase of the size of the Premier League and of European competition. With that, we've seen bigger commercial deals, some sponsorship endorsements, players, of course, getting paid so much more money, and that naturally makes it a more attractive competition to invest in.
JP Morgan on Monday said that it was providing the financing. The founding clubs will be given €3.5 billion to, quote, support their infrastructure investment plans and to offset the impact of the COVID pandemic. The Super League announcement comes as UEFA on Monday approves reforms to expand the Champions League to 36 teams instead of the current 32 and to introduce a league instead of groups. It's a move which had received criticism from some fans prior to its approval. Neil Woodrow, NTD News, Stamford Bridge Football Ground, London.
Prime Minister Boris Johnson has cancelled his planned trip to India due to concerns over the ongoing CCP virus surge in the country. He says he plans to meet Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi later in the year instead.
The Prime Minister originally planned to talk face-to-face with his Indian counterpart, Narendra Modi, about the future partnership between the two countries, but the rising infection rates in India has made the trip impossible.
Narendra Modi and I have basically come to the conclusion that very sadly I won't be able to go ahead with the trip. I do think it's only sensible to postpone, given what's happening in India, the shape of the pandemic there.
The two leaders said they will remain in regular contact and look forward to meeting in person later this year.
I just want to stress that this is we're going to be going back. The relationship between the UK and India is of huge importance, and I'll be talking to Prime Minister Modi on Monday. We'll be trying to do as much as we can virtually.
India is going through a second wave of the virus. Infections have passed the 15 million mark. The capital, Delhi, is due to go into lockdown on Monday night. Last week, UK health authorities said they had begun investigating a new CCP virus variant, which was first identified in India. This new variant has 2 mutations, which may make it more transmissible and more resistant to vaccines. To date, 77 cases of the new variant have been found in the UK.
Moscow expelled 20 Czech diplomats on Sunday. It's over Czech allegations that 2 Russian spies were behind a previous explosion at a Czech ammunition depot that killed 2 people. The 2 Russian spies are those already accused of a nerve agent poisoning in the UK in 2018.
The Czech Republic and Russia have kicked out dozens of each other's diplomats in what's now become their biggest dispute since the end of the communist era. The Czech Republic ordered 18 Russian diplomats to leave within 72 hours after linking Russian spies to a 2014 explosion at an arms depot southeast of Prague. On Sunday, Moscow in turn kicked out 20 Czech diplomats. Prague says it's told NATO and the EU that it believes Russia was behind the explosion years ago, and EU foreign ministers are set to discuss the matter on Monday. Czech police say that days before the explosion, 2 men using the names Alexander Petrov and Ruslan Bosirov had travelled to the Czech Republic. Those 2 names are also aliases connected to 2018 poisonings in Britain of former Russian spy Sergei Skripal and his daughter. Russia has called Prague's allegations absurd, since Czech authorities previously blamed the blast on the depot's owners. It also accused Prague of striving to please the United States against the backdrop of recent US sanctions against Russia.
Researchers at the University of Oxford have launched a human challenge trial to see how people's immune systems react to being re-exposed to the CCP virus. They are recruiting healthy people aged 18 to 30 who have previously had COVID-19. It is a 12-month trial with the first phase scheduled to start this month. Up to 64 participants will be re-exposed to the virus in carefully controlled conditions, including 17 days quarantine in a specially designed hospital suite. Last week, a study involving more than 3,000 US Marine Corps recruits found that around 10% of participants previously infected with COVID-19 became re-infected. And in other news, a new government scheme launched today is guaranteeing mortgages for first-time buyers. UK high street mortgage lenders are now offering mortgages with a deposit of just 5%. NTD's Patrick Hayden brings us more.
The government launched a new mortgage scheme on Monday. It means that first-time buyers can purchase a property with just a 5% deposit. The government will guarantee a portion of the loan to the lender. We spoke to a property expert to get his view on the scheme.
So this gives first-time buyers, which we need, access to the marketplace, gives lenders comfort in terms of the government backing. And with first-time buyers being so important in the market, because they're in effect the seed corn where the market starts, where chains are built, I think it's going to significantly affect the number of people that can buy.
Hayward says prior to the pandemic, there were up to 400 first-time buyer mortgage products on the market. Since the pandemic, this has gone down to just 2 or 3. He says fixing the first-time buyer problem may mean that a second-time buyer issue could arise.
The issue, of course, is the lack of supply that we're currently getting in the United Kingdom, which are their lowest levels since records began, as people are reticent to put their houses on the market until they find somewhere to move to. So the next issue we might have is the second-time buyer, who will need to increase their lending or borrowing capacity to enable them to move.
Hayward says in the last 3 months, house price inflation stood around 6 to 7%. The problem is that if house prices drop, buyers could find themselves in negative equity.
If prices were to drop, if people were to find themselves in negative equity, in other words, the loan exceeds the value of the property, then obviously the government would have to make up the shortfall when that property was sold, if it was sold probably in a foreclosure rather than a voluntary way.
He says he doesn't expect to see house prices drop significantly, given that demand for property is so much higher than supply. Patrick Hayden, NTD News, London.
Today at 11:59 p.m. is the deadline for registering to vote in various elections on the 6th of May, including the election of the Mayor of London. Elections will take place for local governments in England, the Scottish and Welsh Parliaments, police and crime commissioners in England and Wales, and for city mayors and the London Assembly. Many were postponed from last year due to the pandemic. According to a report from the Electoral Commission, there could be up to 9.4 million eligible adults who have not correctly registered. And in other news, Israel is now one step closer to relative normality. The Israeli government removed the mandate for wearing masks outdoors on Sunday.
The Israeli government has scrapped the requirement of mask wearing outside. Over the weekend, Israelis were going about mask-free and happy to be breathing freely. This man said it felt like a holiday or the future, and he hoped the whole world would follow suit in this way. The mask mandate had been enforced by police and in place for a year.
The mask is like part of me for a really long time, so being without it is it's weird, but good.
Over 80% of the country's citizens or residents eligible for the vaccine have now received the full doses. New cases and hospitalizations are down sharply.
We are leading the world right now in emerging from the coronavirus and fully renewing education in middle school too. It is a clear sign of that.
Nurseries and primary schools were already back to pre-pandemic schedules, with secondary school pupils attending on and off in recent terms. Teachers are instructed to continue ventilating classrooms and maintaining social distancing in lessons and breaks.
Kids are very happy to come back for a full day of school, and I think all of us as adults are really happy to be without our face masks during the day when we're outside without crowded places. So generally it's a very happy day, I think, for all of us.
The country's health minister still requires mask wearing for indoor public spaces. Entry to Israel by foreigners remains limited, and non-immune citizens who return from abroad are required to self-isolate.
Still to come, Germany's Green Party nominates a candidate for Chancellor in the next election, the first time in its history. That and more when we return.